On this episode of This is Game Boy, you better not suck. Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of This is Game Boy. This time not live. Because the schedule didn't fit for us to do this live. Well, we could have, honestly.
Yeah.
But there's so much stuff going on right now that we're just gotta do it the old way. So not
literally everything, something happening every weekend of the month for RGL. So
yeah,
we decided to take it offline this month just to basically give us a break.
yeah. And it's not like the most exciting game anyways to be doing live. So whatever, like, that doesn't matter. But yeah, like always, let's go over what we've been up to, and I guess we'll start with EBC this time, because I did the intro. That's usually the way it works. So yeah, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been playing a lot of WoW, both retail and classic now, because retail, the expansion's coming out next week. So I've been doing a lot of pre-patch stuff for that. WoW Classic, just raid nights at this point now. The new Modern Warfare 2 came out, well, quote-unquote new Modern Warfare 2 came out. The remake of it came out like a month or so ago. And they just recently released Season 1, so hardcore is now in the game again. So I've been playing that a lot. As for retro stuff, Jazz Jackrabbit for the Game Boy Advance. If you've never played, so I don't often recommend Game Boy Advance games because I don't like that system very much. Jazz Jackrabbit might be one of the best Game Boy Advance games I've played.
Is it just a port of the old DOS games?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
They tried to reboot it basically. So they took the OG like concept of Jazz Jackrabbit from the DOS. Then they tried to reboot it on the Game Boy Advance. Mm-hmm. And you can definitely tell they never took it serious because they literally made fun of themselves the entire game. But it was an incredibly fun game with 5 different difficulties, and boy does that game get real hard at the higher difficulties. Also, the game, if you play it on the easiest difficulty, skips the harder levels. So like there are levels in the game that you can die to pitfalls in. If you play it on the easiest difficulty, the game skips those levels. So the only way you can die in the game is just to have your health reduced. So unless you play on normal or harder, you don't ever get to see those extra stages. It's actually kind of a neat idea, but crazy good game. Highly recommend it. I just took world record in it like a week or so ago.
Nice.
Yeah. I played High School Musical for the Game Boy Advance. Now, Going into this game, I was like, oh, great, it's another DDR button masher, like all these other type of musical games are on the Game Boy Advance.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, was I half wrong. So it definitely has its DDR element to it, but that's not the main focus of the game. The main focus of the game is an actual platformer. It's a collectathon platformer.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you literally play as like the cast, and you have to go through the high school, collect various things, and then move on to like the quote unquote boss stage, which is the DDR stuff. The more stuff that you collect, the easier the DDR stuff is at the end.
All right.
It was honestly not that bad.
Strange concept.
I wouldn't openly recommend it, but if you're looking for like some DDR stuff mixed in with some other genres, maybe check it out. the music's not half bad either. If you like the "We're All in This Together" song, because that plays friggin' nonstop.
I have no idea what that is. Oh.
I've never watched High School Musical. I know of it because it came out right when I got into college. So everyone was watching High School Musical because that was just what you did. So like I personally have never watched any of the High School Musicals, but I know of it, and I know a couple of the popular songs just because like you just have to know that because of pop culture stuff. But the "We're All in This Together" was like, I think it was like one of the songs off the first movie, and it was by far like the most popular song in the entire franchise, and that plays nonstop through the game.
Yeah, but maybe if I hear it, I know it, but by heart, I have no idea what that song is.
Yeah, it's a decent rendition of it. It's not awful, but it does get tiring.
Right.
But yeah, it's actually, like I said, it's not terrible. You get to play as Zac Efron as well, too, so I mean...
Sure, I guess.
Yeah. Beyond that, that's really about it. I started... I started replaying Assassin's Creed Valhalla a little bit. I just recently got a PS5, and I played it for a total of 2.5 hours.
Well, so you watched the intro, basically.
I literally have played the game through the intro, and that's it. I haven't even gone anywhere outside of the intro yet. But I wanted to see the intro because if none of you have ever played an Assassin's Creed game, the intros to the Assassin's Creed games are epic because you have to do this like. You have to do like this like pre-story that leads into like what you're about to do, and then once you've finished basically the start of it, it like starts to pan out and it shows you a large chunk of the world, and like in the older Assassin's Creed, it would basically show you the entire area that you were in, but in the newer ones, since the maps are so damn big. It pans out and shows this huge, just like atmospheric panorama shot, and it puts the logo across it. And they're always gorgeous looking. They're so good looking. And I played the game on PS4, and I thought the game looked gorgeous on the PS4. Then I played it on the PS5, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, all right, I get it. So that's as far as I got in Assassin's Creed. I'll eventually, I don't have the new God of War or anything yet, so, but I'll eventually get the new Dad of War and throw it in there and play that. I didn't even get the new Pokemon game. That game does not interest me at all after reading the reviews on it.
All right, yeah, not a good entry at all. Well, when it comes to performance, at least, I'm sure it's fine otherwise. But I pre-order these things, and this time I was like, nah, I don't want to. Like after the last one, I was like, nah, it's not for me. The quote unquote open world aspects and things like that. No.
I like open world. I love open world games.
Yeah.
But like, Pokemon's different for me because like there's just so much to it now. Like it's not the simple it's not the simple Gen 1, Gen 2 stuff anymore. There's so many different types, and like you look at a Pokemon, you're like, oh, that's probably like rock steel, but then like you like inspect it and it's like fairy ghost. You're just like, oh, okay. So like you can't even figure out like the type of the Pokemon just by looking at it anymore. And like it just gets to the point where like there's too many to keep track of. And like I'm 35, my memory sucks at this point. Like I can't even I have a hard time now keeping track of the OG 151. Like, not to mention the extras that came in Gen 2. Like, you're going to expect me to memorize 700 Pokemon and Gen whatever we're in? Like,
we're at 1,000 already, so...
Okay, you're going to expect me to memorize 1,000 Pokemon and Gen whatever we're in? Like,
I think Gen 9. 8 or 9 it is. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to memorize all of that stuff. And then now you had, like, the the stats of like this thing is like a 5-star Pokemon because of its stats. So I'm like, cool, that didn't matter back in Gen 1. Not as much in a way. So it's like, God, there's just so much to keep track of. And like now, like apparently like this game like starts off really strong. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, now you have to grind for hours on end to progress through the game. And it's like, oh, okay. So like it's just basically you play the game for an hour, then you sit there and throw Pokeballs and fight for the next 5 hours.
Right.
Cool, that sounds great.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with the newer Pokemon or things like that. I think for me it started getting way too confusing when they first they had like the I don't even remember what it's called. Like you had like the special versions of some Pokemon. It's like I'm gonna say Z transformation and X transformations of the yeah, that's it exactly. Like you had Charizard X and you had Charizard Y and all those things.
Oh, that's a Sword Shield, wasn't it?
No, that was in what was that, Jen? Wasn't it just Pokemon X and Pokemon Y? That was the entirety.
Maybe I didn't play that one.
Yeah, so then they started to have two forms of each Pokemon. Then they went into the Alolan region when you had Alolan variants.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And then you had like again, I don't know the terms because I can't keep up anymore. Then you had the Mega transformations and the yada yada yada. And in this version, well, in this gen, you have even something new where you like attach something to your Pokemon and they get completely different typings and completely different stats. And I'm like, how do you keep up with this bullshit unless this is the first game you've ever played? Like, I don't care for that anymore. So maybe I'll pick it up one day just to see how it is. But as far as really enjoying a Pokemon game, like I think after the Alolan region, which was just a fun game, but not that much fun of a Pokemon game for me. Like I just gave up on even trying. Like I like seeing the new designs, but that's it. Like I don't care anymore.
The last new gen Pokemon game I played was Sword and Shield. And that was when they put like the Giga ones in there. Yeah. Where like you go into like a gym fight and you can be like your Pokemon can grow like 5,000 feet and become a Giga Chad basically, and it's like, this is dumb.
I did not like that either. No.
Like this is stupid. And then like you go and like do like the world event stuff like out in the open world, and like you would come across one of those Gigas or like Haunted or whatever the heck they were called. You're just like, this is dumb because I need people to help me. And it was just like I don't like the whole like. I'm all for having a bunch of new Pokemon, but like as soon as you start adding like other elements to it, to where like all of a sudden like they can change their type and power and whatever else just because they can, like this doesn't make sense to me at all. Like when I played Arceus, I liked Arceus a lot. By the way, loved the concept of that game. Just held your hand a little too much, but like the fact that it was like, well, this comet came and hit the Earth, and now some of the Pokemon are powerful. And it's like, well, how come some are, but the others aren't? That doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't understand the story anymore, basically. I think what it comes down to. Yeah. I don't understand the lore, so I don't understand what's happening.
Sure.
Now let's go Pikachu and let's go Eevee, on the other hand.
Those were even worse.
Masterpiece, because that was Gen 1.
I hate that.
And I knew what was happening.
And we even have an episode about it, how much I hate it. So if you want to go check that out,
that's right.
It's one of our earliest episodes.
I forgot that was an episode we had Hero on.
Yeah,
I forgot about that episode. All right, well, that's what I've been up to in a side tangent after watching Pokemon stuff for the last day or so. What have you been up to?
Not much, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I really haven't been playing much lately, or even streaming. I think it's been over a month that I last streamed. Even I hope to get back to it soon, but I'm so busy that I just the few moments I do have time to do nothing, I really want to do nothing instead of like streaming and things like that. But yeah, I have been playing a few games on my own. I played a few of the games of the Turtles Cowabunga collection. Like, I already did the Game Boy ones, of course, because that took me like, what, an hour and a half to get through all of those, so that wasn't a problem. But I also played through both arcade games. It's 2 arcade games that are on there, right? Yeah, so like the original Turtles arcade game and what's the other one called? Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time.
I've also played the Super Nintendo version of Turtles in Time because I grew up with that, so that wasn't really a problem. And I played Hyperstone Heist, which I actually think is a really cool game. I just think it's dumb that like you only have like 5 bosses in that game, and then they do a boss rush with all the bosses again. Maybe that had something to do with like what they could fit on the cart on Genesis or something. I don't know. I just thought it was a weird choice because you have so many characters and then you just repeat the same bosses. It was weird, but I actually do like the game. This was the first time I actually sat down and played Hyperstone Heist, and if I had a Genesis back then instead of a Super Nintendo, I would have been happy with that one as well. But yeah, it ain't no Turtles in Time on Super Nintendo because that's just the best one. And then I played the Tournament Fighters, but the NES version. God, that game sucks. Like, it's really not good. It's a very weird game, and like I went into the game, I read the manual because it's on the on the disc, but it doesn't say any of the special moves of any of the turtles, which is dumb because they remade the manual, so they could have just included that, to be honest. So I had no idea what I was doing, so I looked it up on GameFAQs, what the moves were, and basically you just pick Donatello and you do the same move over and over and over again and you win. That's the only way to actually win that game. If you just want to play it as a normal fighting game, it just doesn't work. Like, you get your ass handed to you by the first opponent on easy mode, so yeah. Very strange game. I haven't touched the other versions yet, but I don't have any high hopes for them because I don't know. I remember checking out the Super Nintendo version of Tournament Fighters and hating that game as well when I was a kid, so yeah. We will see, but those are the games I still have to beat. And then the 2 NES arcade games, I guess. Oh, and the first Turtles. I actually haven't played that one either yet. But that one I know I can beat because I've beaten it many times. So. But yeah, when I have like an hour or something, I pick up one of those Turtles games real quick because, yeah, they don't take that long. I've also played the Fate trilogy.
So good.
I was waiting for 2 years now for the third game to come out, or the trilogy in this case. And the funny thing is, I've played Fate 1 and 2 again, and I still haven't started on Fate 3. So that's typical of me, waiting so long for a game and then not playing it the moment I get it. I'll get around to it eventually. But yeah, those games are absolutely fantastic. Everybody should pick up the trilogy. Or if you want to, you can get them separate on itch.io, I guess, but why not just get the trilogy on?
Just get the trilogy on Steam.
Yeah, it's just one of the most fantastic horror games made in the last 6 years. I guess the first one came out. It's just incredibly cool and fun. Not that scary for me, because again, I don't scare anymore. Because I watch too many horror movies and play too many horror games. But yeah, it's just a very fantastic game. And everybody should support Airdorf. So maybe we can get some more Fate in the future. Besides that, I've also played Blossom Tales 2, The Minotaur King, I believe the subtitle is called. I actually won Steam code for this game during Indie Land. If you don't know what Indie Land is, it's something that the completionist organizes twice a year, I believe, where they show off. Well, they work together with a lot of indie developers and they show off new games that are coming out or that have just come out from the indie scene. Meanwhile, it's a charity event for dementia research because that's what the completionist's mother. She had that and she passed away a few years ago, so it's tied into that. But you also always see really, really cool indie games there. I had known about Blossom Tales for a long time because I got the first one on Switch. It's basically like a Zelda clone. That's, I mean, that's it. It's a Zelda clone. But it's about this little girl and her brother and her grandpa is telling a story where she gets to be the hero and save the kingdom and things like that. And it's funny. It's cute. It plays well. It does the tropes from Zelda good. So you kind of know what you can expect, but it has some like original ideas that it brings to the table. But yeah, it's basically the same setup. You go to a dungeon, you get an item, you defeat a boss, yada 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 until you get to the end. So very fun game. I think I'm halfway through for now. This one's definitely a lot longer than the first one. I think the first one took me like 3 hours. And this one is gonna take like 8 hours or something like that. But yeah, if you're interested in a fun Zelda-like game, go check out Blossom Tales. It's not only on Switch, you can also... it's not only on Steam, you can also get both of them on Switch. And then the last game... yeah, I'm saying game because it's more like half a movie and half a game. I'm playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. Very, very fun, silly RPG. But the cutscenes are so long that you're usually just sitting around for an hour and then playing for 5 minutes. So you really need to be in the mood for that type of game, to be honest. Like, I guess it's kind of like Metal Gear or Death Stranding or something like that. Like you just play for a moment and then a cutscene starts and you're like, oh, this will resolve itself in like 2 minutes, right? And then 25 minutes later you're still watching the cutscene. But they are interesting. That is something great about the game. Like the setup is so serious and silly at the same time that you just get invested in all these characters and you don't mind that these cutscenes are taking so long. You don't have to like super pay attention to the screen, so as long as you hear what they're saying, it's kind of fine. But yeah, besides that, it's actually a pretty good RPG. It has nothing to do with the rest of the Yakuza series, so it's not tied up in the lore of the other games or anything. It's really just a standalone spin-off title, and it's just fun to play. It's just, I would compare it to like South Park Stick of Truth, where it's a good RPG but with silly elements to it that don't really make sense, but it just works with the story. Like you get a job and your job is your class, for example, so you get different abilities depending on what job you have. You just basically beat up Yakuza members and hobos and whatever else is running around on the streets. And yeah, you do... The side quests are probably the most ridiculous part about the game, but they're so funny. You're just happy when you see one on your map that you're gonna go do it. Like the last one I did, like the circus is coming to town and this guy is always like, oh, I'm the best with my animals and I keep them locked up. They're super friendly, just say hi to them. And then every time they break out and you have to like fight a tiger, you have to fight a bear, and then you have to fight a monkey who takes over a construction digger equipment. It's like the most stupid things you can imagine, but it just works really well. So if you're in a mood for a very silly RPG, definitely check out Yakuza Like a Dragon. I think, again, it's interesting when it's serious, but it's also interesting when it's not serious. So They did really well, and it's crazy that like this game was, of course, a Japanese game first, and like there's so much voice acting in this game, and they had to do it in English as well. So kudos to all the voice actors for like probably having to read a script of like 20,000 pages just for this game. It's like incredible. So yeah, that's all I've been playing. That one has been taking up the most of my time due to the lengthy cutscenes. But besides that, I haven't really played anything the last month and a half or something. Yeah.
I still haven't played a Yakuza game. I have access to them all because of the Xbox Game Pass, but I still haven't played a single one.
Yeah, this is the first one for me, so no.
It's not from a lack of interest. It's a lack of time.
Yeah,
because I know how long those games are.
I wouldn't be too interested in playing the other ones because they are GTA clones. And I would get bored of them. Like, I know they're funny as well, but I would just get bored of them immediately. I just know myself. So this one was like more of my interest because it's an RPG, and I love RPGs. So yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, the Mafia series has got re-released or redefined, whatever you want to call it. And I like the Mafia. It's another GTA clone, but I like the Mafia series a lot. So, but yeah, all right, cool. I've seen you guys talk about it in Discord too. I'm just like, God, like I really should play a Yakuza game because I literally have no idea what you all are talking about. Like 90% of the time when you're talking about that game.
Well, if you can think of something really ridiculous, it's probably in the game. So, like, I fought a huge freaking... What are those vacuum cleaners called? Roomba. Like, that was the last boss fight I did. Like, I beat a Roomba. Like, just...
Roombas are gonna take over the world. I mean...
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's another side quest, so it's not a spoiler for the story or anything, so...
So good. Well, I actually played more than you this time. The rare occasion of EBC playing more video games than Mo. Yeah, it's so hard right now to play. Well, like I say that as I sink hours upon hours into WoW and Call of Duty, but like it's just like those are like those are games that are just so easy to go into and out of. Without having to like dedicate a ton of time into, because it's like, oh, I got an hour and a half to spare while something is rendering. I can go play WoW or Call of Duty real quick, and I can just go out. It's not like I'm playing like Mega Man or something. I go into Mega Man, I finally get into the Wily stages, so I'm like, all right, well, I need to go do this thing now. And it's either A, I pause the game for hours on end, or I go figure out what the password was and come back to it later. And it's so hard to get into a game like that when you have split windows throughout the week that you can play something. So
yeah,
I hate being this busy right now. It sucks. I'm hoping December like really calms down, because like this month alone I did the Nescathlon commentary. I did with you the Tiny 10 commentary last weekend. This was my first quote-unquote free weekend in like a month and a half, and we're recording the podcast episode. Next weekend I have Feed the Kids marathon with RGL, where I'm playing 4 Game Boy games during that. Well, 3 Game Boy games is Squidlet, basically 4 Game Boy games. You know, and then next month we have Secret Santa. You know, so next month, the only thing I have committed to is Secret Santa. So I'm hoping next month is my month where I can actually sit down and, like, do something.
Yeah. We will see.
We'll see. But, all right, well, we're going to take a quick short break here, and when we come back, we are going to talk about Zool, the gremlin-like ninja from the nth dimension. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you liked that song because you're going to hear it a couple more times throughout the episode, as this game only has one soundtrack. So, diving into Zool, we should probably start with what is Zool?
Yeah, that's important. I guess everybody actually knows who Zool is. If you have been into video games since like the 90s, you probably have seen Zool around. Because even though he only has technically one game, well, it has a second one, but it's not really.
There's technically 3, I think, now, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, everybody has seen Zool in some form of capacity. But originally, this was a game made for Amiga by George Allen, who is a famous designer for Amiga games. Was Amiga? Was that the European thing or the American? No, the Spectrum was the European thing, right?
Yeah, the ZX I think was the European thing.
And the Amiga was like the American.
Yep.
Early console/computer thingy. So yeah, if you look at screenshots of Zool, it might seem familiar because like Amiga has like a very distinct style to it. So all of the games kind of look alike, really. But yeah, he made his previous game Switchblade 2 got a lot of flack because of lack of enemies, apparently. And so he came up with the idea of Zool, which like a more fast-paced game with a lot of enemies that you have to take down. But sadly enough, he didn't have enough money to actually make the game. So he went out of his way to basically find a sponsor. And the sponsor, as everybody knows now, was actually the Spanish candy company, I guess it is, that are responsible for the Chupa Chups. Those are the lollipops, if you don't know those, which would be weird, because everybody knows those. So yeah, Zool is not the mascot of Chupa Chups at all, as most people think. They just sponsored this video game. So Zool has basically nothing to do with it, but sadly, because they sponsored it, the entire first stage of the Amiga game was just littered with references to Chupa Chups. But that's a nice thing to learn about, because everybody thinks like, oh, he's the mascot. No, he's not. He's just sponsored by him. It's kind of odd.
Okay, well that explains why there's so much candy in like the first stage.
Well, it doesn't even have anything to do with that, but yeah, the first stage is indeed Candy Land, but yeah, they just put a lot of Chupa Chups logos in the background, on the Amiga version at least, that is. Because on the Game Boy version, that doesn't show up at all.
No.
They probably couldn't port that image well enough to put in the Game Boy version. So yeah, that's a little history about Zool. It did get a sequel, Zool 2, but I have never seen that game, actually, to be honest, which was also an Amiga game. And last year or 2 years ago, they actually remade the first game on Steam under the title Zool Redimensioned. So if you want to check out that game, I heard it's pretty good, so why not? And actually, the Amiga game was very, very well received. Sadly, it did suffer from one thing that a lot of these other mascot games, well, not mascot for Chupa Chups, but like he was gonna be a mascot for Amiga. What a lot of these games suffer from, and I'll refer to Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'll refer to Bubsy on the Super Nintendo. You move so fast in this game that you literally keep on dying. All the time. Which is not the purpose of the game. So, yeah, it's one of those games where you actually have to take it very slow, even though the acceleration of your main character is like... I don't know anything about cars, but like a fast car.
You gotta take it slow, but you can't take it too slow because the stages are timed.
Yeah, so it's one of those games, sadly, but yeah, it's still got a lot of acclaim on the Amiga, at least. So. But yeah, that's your little history lesson about what Zool actually is.
Yeah, so Game Boy version though, because there's about 8,000 different ports of this game. Game Boy version though came out in 1993 and was developed by Gremlin Graphics, which actually has a pretty interesting history in itself. Because it started off as Gremlin Graphics Software Limited, then turned into Gremlin Interactive in like 1994, and then ultimately was bought out by Infogrames Studio,
Of
and
course.
then and all these this is all British software, and they mostly did home computer stuff. It's like home computer software. They weren't really into like the console stuff at this moment yet. But their primary market was the ZX, the Amstrad, the MSX, the Commodore 16, and 64. But when so Gremlin was acquired by Infogrames in 1999, renamed to Infogrames Studio in 2000, then shut down in 2003. So you know, it was a pretty much we're gonna buy you and then eventually just shut you down type deal. In 1994, Gremlin Graphics was renamed to Gremlin Interactive since they focused on 16-bit PC and console stuff now. And they had great success with, well, Zool and Premier Manager, which if you don't know what that is, that's a soccer game, essentially.
Yeah.
Because and eventually they would go more into sports games because they saw the success that EA was having with Madden at the time. But notable games from Gremlin, you get the Monty Mole series, Premier Manager, Zool, Actua Sports. If you're into sports games, you've definitely heard those titles. And then Top Gear. So if you're into car stuff, you definitely have heard of Top Gear. Published by Game Tech. People have their issues with publishers, right? Like AVGN has LJN as, you know, his most hated publisher. Game Tech is probably my LJN. I hate everything published by Game Tech. I don't think I have found a single game that I have liked published by Game Tech. And the reason I think this is because it gave me such a bad taste in my mouth the first like 10 games I ever played that they published, because their Game Tech is owned by the company that also owns Jeopardy. So Game Tech obviously publishes Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, along with some other game shows, you know, video games as well too, and they're all bad. The sound is awful of them. They're just, and I know they're not coding them, but they're just bad. And oh god, I hate Game Tech so much. Composer is Pat Felon. Pretty active sound engineer and composer. Games ranging from, well, the Zool 1992 version to Zool Dimensional in 2021. So the game that Mo just recently talked about in the opener there. Notable games that we probably have heard of because of just mainstream media. Crackdown 3, Forza 7, Micro Machines, Judge Dredd, Monster Truck Wars, Zool, right? So, and Zool is a platformer, so.
Zool is indeed a platformer. Yeah. Zool doesn't have a real plot though, which is weird. Because I see you've added some stuff from the box, but that's the box from the Amiga version.
It's the Amiga box, yeah. It was hard to find the Game Boy stuff.
Yeah, like we don't have the manual either. Sadly, like I've searched high and low, but I couldn't find anything. So, coming from the Amiga version at least, so his name is Zool, and he is a gremlin-like creature from another dimension, the Ant dimension, actually. He is forced to land on the Earth, but his sole goal is to attain the prestigious ranking of a ninja. To do that, Zool will have to travel through, in this case, 4 worlds, each divided into 3 stages, defeat his enemies, and prove himself worthy of that title. Yeah, all I can think about the plot from the one cutscene that this game has, which is, well, a still panel, if I remember correctly, is that he's trying to go back home. But besides that, like, there's no story at all in the game itself, at least. So.
Yeah, like I said, it's actually really hard to find Game Boy information like this for Zool. A lot of it was Amiga and Commodore and stuff like that, because that was the original stuff, and that's what it was hailed on. So, but yeah, like even in the Game Boy version, like you go into Candyland first level, we'll get to that in a second, and then make your way through it. But yeah, there's no indicator in the actual gameplay that you're trying to become a ninja. I think when I played, I just assumed I was already a ninja because of the box art.
Yeah.
But
I mean, and it's called Ninja of the Nth Dimension, so I mean, you would assume he's already a ninja.
I just assumed he was already a ninja. Maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe the lore just runs really deep with these ports, where like the Amiga version, he's not a ninja yet, but since the Game Boy came out so much later than the Amiga version, he has now turned into the ninja. So like maybe there's some like storyline throughout the ports that we just don't get because we never played the ports.
Yeah, maybe what is the lowest rank of ninja again?
I don't even know.
Chunin is the second, and come on, you've watched Naruto.
Academy student.
Academy student.
I just looked up the Naruto ninja ranks. Academy student, Genin, Chunin.
Genin, that's it. Yeah, the low. Maybe he's still a Genin. There we go. And he's trying to become a Jonin or Junin. Right.
I don't know. Maybe he went. I thought Cage is the highest rank. What's Cage then?
Kage? That's leader.
Oh,
like it's not.
Also, you assumed
Hokage is leader of the village.
You have also assumed I have watched Naruto.
Who hasn't watched Naruto?
I have not watched Naruto. Not one episode.
I guess you should say Naruto, because otherwise we're gonna get the entire anime.
I have never watched. I have never watched a single episode of Naruto.
Oh, I have, so. Okay, so yeah, let's see. What does he have for tools, our Zool ninja here? Standard, the controls are B is jump and A is shoot. You don't want that, so you're gonna change that immediately to A is jump and B is shoot. Shoot, he probably shoots a ninja star, but it's hard to tell. It just looks like a ball that he's throwing in this version, to be honest. The down button makes you duck or slide. I think if you press the jump button while pressing down, you actually slide. Or is it if you have momentum that you slide? I don't really remember.
I think it was momentum.
Yeah, it could be momentum based. And there's also like a twirly attack, which you kind of do by pressing attack while you are jumping, but not really. It's something you have to figure out. Like it only takes 5 seconds to figure out, but it's like a weird combination. But that can also kill enemies because you do that twirly move. But that's not even in the... Well, maybe it's in the manual, but we don't have the manual. But most people don't talk about that twirly move, which is actually very useful because you are kind of invulnerable while you're doing that. Besides just these things, you have a few items hidden throughout the stages that can help you out on your journey. There's the double Z symbol, which basically makes you split into two. I don't think you're invulnerable when you have that picked up, but it's basically like if you ever played Ninja Gaiden 2 and 3. Does one have the after image, guys? I don't remember. But it's basically like your clone, and it also does an attack. But it only lasts for a little bit. You also have the Z shield, which is, well, a shield. I mean, what else would it be? Like, it just lasts like 10 seconds and then it's gone. There's a high jump arrow. That's probably the first thing you're gonna see when you're starting this game because it's right in front of you. This makes you jump higher for 2 jumps. And it helps you reach this higher platforms throughout the stage. And then there's 1-ups, because you will need these. Like, you will absolutely need these 1-ups, because it's definitely a tough game.
Yeah. Difficulty levels in the game. So you need to play on the hard. You need to play on the hard difficulty to get the ending. The harder the game, the more pickups you need to finish the stages. It also decreases your max health and ups the boss's health. You gotta collect somewhere around 99 items in the stage to unlock basically the big coin or the proceed coin. At the end of the level, you gotta go touch it to move on to the next stage. And it's like there's like 3 or 4 stages per world as well too.
Mm-hmm,
so,
yeah.
Lots of collecting.
At the bottom of the screen, you have like this percentage meter that goes up whenever you pick up the random pickups tied to that particular stage. We'll say the details about that during the stages. So on easy, you need 25% of all pickups. On normal, you need 50%, and on hard, you need 75%. I don't think you get a bonus for getting 100%.
I've never gotten 100%. So.
I think in the first few levels I can, but I don't think you get anything special. And even if you do get something special, it's probably just going to be a 1-up anyway. So.
Yeah, I've never gotten a 100% in this game. Because I don't like games that time me. Well, going into the stages, the first stage we get, as we mentioned a couple times before, is Candyland. So in this stage here, you're going to be collecting, candy to get through the stages. And like I mentioned earlier, there's 4 areas in stage 1. The 4th area being the boss fight, which is
it's 3 areas. The boss is part of the
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair, yeah. I guess I consider it a separate thing since boss. But yeah, 3 areas, boss. We face off against a bee.
It's, if you can call... It has the body of a bee, but I don't know what those 2 things are at the top. Like some Cheerios or something pasted on top of some bee body.
I think I called it a bee as well in my playthrough. Yeah. But oddly enough, like this boss is I think the only boss with 2 phases in it, which is kind of comical too. It's like it's like phase 1. It's going to start from the corner, the top corner. It kind of like swoop down, and once it hits the middle, it's going to go back up to the other corner. So you can kind of like hang out in the lower corners and be safe. So if you've ever played Super Mario Land 2, if you've ever played against the bird boss or Tatanga, where the boss kind of comes from the corner, swoops down to the middle, and then swoops back up, and then your chance to hit them is while they're in the middle. It's very similar to that. You just shoot them as they're coming down. And then once you've done enough damage, this bee goes into what I call phase 2. And it's still like incredibly easy. Because it does kind of the same pattern, but in a different motion. So it starts in the corner. It's going to come over to the halfway point, come down, and then it's going to, and that's your chance to go at it, and it's going to shoot off into the corner, go up into the other corner, then it just rinse and repeats. So basically you shoot it when it comes down, jump over it, and just rinse and repeat. Extremely easy boss fight.
Yeah. So after that, you move on to Music Land. So yeah, instead of like flan puddings and lollipops and whatchamacallit, you will actually be in a music store basically, where you will get attacked by drums and trumpets and things like that, and you're jumping up on amps and whatnot, going over pianos, things like that.
It's Wayne's World.
Yeah, it's basically like the stages in Wayne's World, right? Probably some better controls than Wayne's World, but
Well,
not that much. Uh, so yeah, you're going through the store trying to reach again the boss at the end of stage 3 while collecting things. In this one, it gets a little harder to find items because, unlike in the first stage, a lot of these items are actually hidden in objects throughout the stages. So, for instance, there's speakers that you can destroy, but of course, this is Game Boy, so it's not really obvious that these are interactable objects. But you have to destroy these to find more and more, because otherwise, you will not have enough by the end that you the moment you reach the end of the stage, and then you would have to backtrack, and that's never fun. But yeah, if you find everything and you reach the end of stage 3, you will have to basically defender yourself against an amped up guitar. See what I did there? That's brilliant. Jesus. But this thing has indeed, it probably does have the worst hitbox ever. Because you kind of have to hit it like right in the middle. It's very weird.
Really bad hitbox. It's probably the worst hitbox in the game.
Yeah. Meanwhile, this thing keeps shooting electrical things all over the screen that are actually hard to dodge.
Yeah.
They bounce off the walls here and there, and he has a second attack, but I don't remember what it is. Is it like the sonic waves?
Yeah, he shoots like the missiles wherever it is at the platform. Then he has like these bouncing shots.
Yeah, and this is where that twirly thing comes in handy, because if you use that to fend off the missiles, they can't hit you and you destroy them meanwhile. Makes it a little bit easier than trying to shoot your ninja star at them, because the hitbox of those things is also super tiny. So it's better to use that spinning move basically to get rid of them. And if you're lucky, you can even phase through the electricity that comes out of the guitar as well. So pro tip, definitely start using that twirly move as much as you can. A weird thing we haven't touched on during the previous stage. So the boss fights, you will die. Like there's no way around it. You will definitely die when facing off against these bosses, but they do retain their health after you've died. So if you've beaten them halfway down, they will retain that health, so you can keep on going. So that's at least good.
And then we go into. I think is it actually called I guess we don't know what. God damn it! Actual,
we have no idea.
Forest World.
In my opinion, the worst part of the game.
Woodland. Yeah, this was not a fun. This was not a fun stage. In this world here, you have to collect. It's not fish yet. Fish is. Is it fish yet? No.
No, it's like fruit that you have to collect.
Fruit, that's what it is. Yeah. Now you gotta go around collecting fruit and I guess tree things. But along the way, like this world is just not fun in general and I think it's not for me. I didn't like it just because of how fast Zool moved. If Zool moved at like a normal pace, I still wouldn't like this stage, but I think I'd like it a lot more than what it gave me. Simply because, like I said, like Zool just moves way too fast for certain things to have to actually happen. But in this stage here, you have to jump on the branches and stuff like that, and the trees. And there's just so much hidden stuff, and like you'll come across some enemies, like a carrot, I think it is, that kind of just like is like dug into like a branch or into the ground, and you think you have to collect it, but in reality, it's actually an enemy, and it just wants to hurt you. Like there's this, it's so bad. Not to mention, like, you have the grapes, and the grape, and like these aren't small grapes. Like these grapes are definitely on some GMOs because like these grapes are gigantic that drop from the top of the screen. And if you're on the ground and you see a bundle of grapes, oh, then you got like 1,000 of them coming after you. It is just the whole stage is awful. All while trying not to fall and die. It's just the absolute worst stage in the world.
This is definitely the stage where the game shows that it wasn't that well thought of. At least not the port. I can't speak of the Amiga version, but yeah, like there are so many enemies in this stage. The grapes keep on respawning, by the way, so you can never actually get rid of them. A lot of the items you need, especially on hard, are indeed hidden in the ground. And if you don't realize they're hidden in the ground, you cannot find them. There are a lot of hidden paths that you need to take to get through this stage. And then the worst part of it all is all of the fruit pickups that are hiding in the trees. Because all of these branches are slopes, and it takes quite a while to figure out when to jump exactly so you don't fall down the tree again and have to make your way back up through the other part of the stage again. It is absolutely ridiculous.
The only redeeming factor of this stage is that so it has little tin cans in the stage that you jump on to like boost yourself up. They're like the trampoline. They say fruit, but the word fruit is, well, for me, spelt wrong. It's FROOT instead of FRUIT. So that's always fun. But the thing I don't think we touched on either is that if you die to a boss, you have to restart the stage. You have to restart that area, or not area, the stage that you were on. So like, I would say like the banana boss, which is the Forest World boss. I think it was the first boss I actually died on, and I was extremely upset because I had to restart the stage and get through the stage, collecting everything, and then getting to the damn banana. But the banana...
Okay. Well, I know why it's frustrating, because apparently you haven't figured out one of the mechanics in the game that does never get explained. There are actually checkpoints in the game. You have to hit them on a very specific pixel while standing next to them, and they look like the background. So, good luck with that.
Great. Really, really great. Meanwhile, though, so once you got through the stage, you have to face off against this floating banana. And this was a hard fight, because the banana's movement, although it's a pattern, you also have to worry about this stupid clock that's on the ground going back and forth, and the banana is shooting like the grapes from the bottom of it, and it's a tough fight.
It sure is. And the hitbox is awful. Of course, that little stem at the top of the banana peel that you need to hit. So yeah, again, good luck with that. The clock itself doesn't hurt you, but it shoots out like these drops from time to time. Again, the spinning move is your best friend here, because you can just like twirl through it, but it takes some timing.
The best part about this too is that once you killed the boss, if you just held right and ran through, you just get smashed by a giant grape.
Yup.
Just this whole stage is awful.
Yep, because it's not like if you defeat the boss, you move on to the next stage. You still have to make it to the end, and usually there's like still some hazard after the boss that you need to face before you can actually make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't talk about the checkpoints. I totally forgot about that. But in the first stage, it's kind of obvious because they look like signs. That's a problem. You have to like actually activate them by shooting them, but you need to stand on a very specific pixel, because I think your hand needs to be touching them. The problem is these are not always these signs. I don't even remember what they are in the three other stages. I think in the forest world, it's those half bananas that are sticking out of the ground. I think those are the checkpoints in the forest world. Yeah, keep that in mind. Like, if you see something small sticking out of the ground, which usually has a very black color to it, that's probably a checkpoint you can hit. So there you go.
Yeah, I don't think if I got a checkpoint, it was by accident.
Probably, yeah. Anyways, that was a forest world or woodland or whatever it's called. So we're moving on to the final stage, at least for the Game Boy version, which is Toyland, which is basically like made up of Mechano. Is that what it's called? Like the Lego that is like more made of steel and things like that that you get.
Oh,
don't you guys have that in America? I think it's called Mechano here.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's from. Yeah, it's Mechano.
If we do, I don't really pay much attention to Lego stuff anymore. We might have it.
Been around since forever.
How do you spell it?
Mechano with 2 C's. It is. It's usually to build like cars and things like that, but it's basically like Lego, but it's metal bars, and you have to like turn the screws to put them together.
Oh yeah, what the heck? We call these something different over here. Erector sets. That's what we call them. Erector sets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I know what these are.
Yeah. So that's basically what this world is made of, and you fight toy planes and toy robots and tanks. Yes, tanks. So that's basically what this world is, and I guess you collect like plushies throughout this stage.
Nice.
Yeah, small plushies that you collect throughout this stage. I actually really like this world. Like, it's definitely a step down in difficulty from the forest world, and it's just fun to explore it. Like, there's these balloons that take you to hidden places. There's a lot of one-ups you can find here. And I don't think the design is like cumbersome, like in the forest world. Like, everything is in reach and easy to get to. It's all just about avoiding the enemies in this one. Especially the tanks, because they shoot from off screen. So that makes it a little harder. But besides that, I think this is probably the most interesting designed stage in the entire game.
I think Toyland was good. I don't think it was for me. It wasn't the best stage, but I thought it was a cool stage. Just because like there was just so much going on. I think the biggest issue I had with it was that some of the blocks, like the ZO or LO or whatever they were called blocks, because they're different colors. So like typically in like a Game Boy game, like the lighter the color something is, that means it's in the background.
Oh yeah.
So like the way, so like I get what they were trying to accomplish with this, because they were trying to go for some shading with the blocks, where one side is lit up and the other side is darker because of shade. Mm-hmm. It made me think that the block or pieces of the block were a part of the background instead of like actual like a platform you stand on. So there were times where like I was like, how do you get that toy up there? Like, how do you get that stuff? And then I realized, I'm like, oh, you can jump on these blocks. I just assumed they were part of the background.
Okay, yeah, I can see that for sure.
Otherwise, I thought it was a very cool stage. Kind of like the first time we get introduced to dangers from blind jumping more than anything. Because like this game is a lot of blind jumping just naturally, and now we have spikes in the middle of the stage. We have moving platforms they have to climb onto, like kind of like, you know, Assassin's Creed type stuff. And I don't know, like it was a very well designed stage, I think. The biggest issue I had, aside from the blocks in the background, were just some of the slopes. because like there's a lot of vertical segments where you have to climb your way up or like attach yourself to the wall and move forward. But there are other times where you had a slope, and the slope didn't look very like didn't have a high grade to it. But for some reason, like I would get onto a slope and I would just be stuck on the slope trying to jump my way off of it. And right. Other stations had slopes, but I was able to manage those slopes. But there's something I don't know what it was in this stage. Maybe because like the slopes were so small, I was just like, bro, I can't get off this slope. I don't understand what's happening. And it doesn't help that you move at like Mach speed when you're on a slope either if you're going down it.
True.
But yeah, Toyland, cool stage. Just you just move so fast. If Zool didn't move so fast, it wouldn't be that bad. And we talked about, let's see here, we got the boss fight in Toyland. Don't even get me started on this boss fight. So I actually had to like copy the strategy and paste it in because like typing it out, the fight on a surface level, it makes sense, but like you have to be quick. And you're just like, oh, you're playing Zool, you're already quick. No, you have to be a different level of quick. Because like the trick to this one is like you want to get onto this upper right platform, and then you want to get by its head, but you don't want to be fully on its head because you'll get hurt, and you don't want to shoot too much because the boss will go invulnerable and you'll fall through the tank and get hurt. So it's a game of patience and quickness, and in a game like this, is like, oh, we're already quick, but this game tests your patience sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Toyland. The cool thing about Toyland, though, there's one enemy I really liked in this game, and it was the paper airplanes. I don't know why. I particularly liked the paper airplanes. I think it's because like everything else in the game was just so on the ground and kind of stationary that like the airplanes like gave me something to do. Because like everything is on the ground. Like in the Toyland, you have the tanks, you have the wind up toys. There's just so much stuff on the ground. Even in the forest land, you had like the carrots that were in the ground. I guess you had the birds, but like the only time you saw the birds is if you were running through the trees. So, and then you had like the grapes that came from the sky, but then they were on the ground. It's like everything was on the ground. So it was nice to actually have something like try and interfere with all the jumping that you had to do through the stage as well. The worst thing though were the spikies just randomly in the middle of platforms. Just like, oh, I'm gonna jump onto this block. Oh, there's a spike there. Cool, I took damage because someone decided to put a spike in the middle of nowhere on a stage. Like there's no rhyme or reason for it whatsoever. Those are probably the things I don't hate things like that, but it's like, come on. Like, why? Because it's Game Boy.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the final world, so we're done, right?
Yeah.
No, we're not done. If you were playing on easy or you were playing on normal, you probably would have been done. Although I don't actually remember if that's true or not. But at least on hard, for sure, you then go into a boss rush where you have to defeat all the 4 bosses you've just faced yet again. Nothing has really changed. They're still the same bosses, so you can use the same tricks you did before. You just have to do them one after another, and there's no healing in between because there's no enemies you can farm for hearts or anything like that. You just have to make sure you have enough lives when you get through to this stage. You have to defeat all the bosses over again, and then you just fly off and the game is over. That's the end. Like, you're not even walking towards an ending like in the previous stages. Nope, you defeat the robot, and then it's over. it just stops right there. So
Yeah.
that's Zool. You fly back to your planet.
Yeah, even the robot boss. The robot boss isn't all that difficult. The hardest thing about the robot boss is that there's no visual cue going on with it, so you kind of have to just go off of instinct and understand how just like the game works, so to speak. Because it's like it's going to bounce around like left to right, right to left, while shooting lasers and other particles and stuff like that. It's just a matter of just knowing when to do something. But yeah, you fly off you hop into your Ultraman head shaped spaceship, and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, you fly to his home, and then you see some jumping weird porcupine thingies, and then it just says game over.
Yep.
That's literally all.
Yeah, it just says well done.
Yeah, there's no credits because the credits are actually at the start of the game. If you just wait on the title screen, you can see the credits, which is useful. Thank you for that, so we can at least find the composer for once. But yeah, that's basically it. So it will take you a while to get familiar enough with the mechanics of this game to actually make it to the end. Forest World is always gonna suck. Like,
no matter
everybody
what.
who's ever played this game is like, oh my god, that Forest World, what is going on there? But once you get to Toyland with enough lives, you can actually make it to the end. The game does offer, I think, standard 3 continues, but you can give yourself 5 continues, which always gives you 3 lives to work with. But definitely during the final stage, like in Toyland, just look around a little bit, and there's so many 1-ups that can really help you out during the boss rush, making it a whole lot easier. Yeah. And just getting through Forest World, that is probably gonna take the most practice.
But here you go, beat the game. I think the game blind took me 3.5 hours ish, just because I died a lot died a lot in the forest stage. That was the stage that wrecked me the most, was the forest stage. And it wasn't even so much like the stage itself, it was that damn banana.
For me, it definitely was the stage itself.
But the cover art for this the cover art for Zool is almost the same across all of the ports. There are a few differences. The biggest differences, honestly, are the Japanese versions. So, like, the Japanese Game Gear and the Japanese Super Nintendo version is probably the most different of them all. Those are like a white background with like almost like a comic feel to those. Otherwise, for these ones, it's Zool in, I guess, ninja costume. Kind of center of the screen, kicking through the background, which is all black. And you can kind of see like the wormhole or the portal or whatever it is he's like soared through. Then on top it says Zool, and then the 2 O's for Zool are Zool's eyes, which I thought was actually pretty damn cool. And it says Ninja of the Nth, and the N and Nth is a rainbow dimension. I think the cover art's actually pretty cool. It's actually pretty colorful, considering like how like saturated-y some of the colors do look. I think it's actually a really cool box art.
Yeah, I absolutely love the box art. Sadly, it doesn't translate well to the Game Boy screen. But check out the Amiga version or the new one, or the remastered one, or whatever you want to call it. So you can see how colorful it is. Like,
it's crazy that because you put the European box art up on there.
Yeah.
The American one has a slightly different one.
Oh yeah. I didn't see that one. Yeah.
So like the American one, you can't even see it in here because it's so damn small. Oh, okay. Good one, Google Drive. Appreciate that one. There you go. So like the American one, oh god, I made it worse. The American one still has like the same logo, like Zool with the O's as eyes, but like the ninja of the nth dimension is nowhere near as like artsy as the European one. In this one here, you have Zool swinging on a rope in front of a full moon. Basically, it's almost like Spider-Man.
Yeah. Kinda. Yeah.
I definitely prefer the European box art over the American one, but
yeah, it's definitely like if you're a kid and you see this, you want it. Like it just speaks to kids for sure. It's just a cool drawing.
Yeah, yeah. Until you look at the back of the box, then you're like, well,
maybe not. Yeah. Well, let's see. We have some trivia. For those people who know the Chupa Chups logo, that was actually made by Salvador Dali.
I don't even know what Chupa Chups is.
It's a lollipop.
Are they like Dum-Dums?
How can you not know the Chupa Chups?
I don't eat candy.
It's like the best.
I know what these are.
Made.
Okay, I never knew they were called Chupa Chups. I just call them suckers.
Yeah. But yeah, that logo, that's a Salvador Dali logo,
I didn't know
which
that.
is really cool. I didn't know that either.
That's super cool.
Looking up info, and just so you know, chupar means to suck in Spanish. I guess it is because it's a Spanish company. So that a lollipop to suck on.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't eat a lot of candy. So like when you're like Chupa Chups is a lollipop, I'm like, is that like a Dum Dum or a Tootsie Pop? I don't.
No, it's a Chupa Chups.
A sucker is a sucker in my mind. So we've already briefly talked about Zool Redimensioned. I haven't checked that out yet. This is the only Zool game I have played in the
same
in the lore. I can get the Amiga stuff working now. I just haven't ventured much into the Amiga library, obviously.
Indeed.
Shaq Fu's the only Amiga game I've actively played. But yeah, I haven't played any of the other Zool games, so I am curious to check them out. More so the Amiga versions than anything else.
Yeah.
I kind of don't. I'm sorry. I kind of just don't care about the Sega versions. I don't care about Sega. Period. But general reception of the game, the original Amiga game was critically acclaimed, getting very favorable scores from things like Amiga Computing, Amiga Action, Amiga Format, Electronic Game Monthly, if you remember those magazines. It was acclaimed to have good graphics, but I think the biggest issue that people had with it was just like the difficulty of the game. In 2011, it was ranked 22nd best game for the Amiga, noting its absurdly high difficulty. So, very, very hard game. I did find some quote unquote rankings for the Game Boy and other ports, and they did not fare as good. The Game Boy version received like a 5 out of 10, mostly because, well, it just didn't port over to the Game Boy very well. Sadly.
Yeah. It is definitely a 5 out of 10 game.
Yeah,
I don't hate it, but I mean, would I recommend it?
No. Never, actually. I would never recommend it. We'll get into that in a minute. But yeah. So yeah, Amiga, if you want to play Zool and you want the best experience of Zool, probably want to play the Amiga version.
Yeah. Or the new one, which apparently people like as well. So.
Yeah, or the new one. I've never played Zool 2, so I can't tell you how good that game is.
Same.
But, right. With that, we're going to take another quick short break. We'll come back, we'll give you our thoughts and history and some other small segments, and obviously the community events coming up. Stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So, thoughts and history with the game. We'll start with you, Mo.
Sure. So I had this game on one of those 101. 101 cards. That's what I wanted to say. As a kid, so I played it a bunch of times and I thought it was okay. I'm not sure if I beat it on hard back then. But yeah, it was just a game that I sometimes played, but like it was definitely nothing special for me. And even to this day, yeah, I think it's fine, but it doesn't have much of an attraction to keep on going back to it at all. So I would just say check it out if you want to. If you don't like it, move on. Maybe check out the Amiga version if you want to. But yeah, that's basically all my thoughts and history I have with this game. It's fine. That's all.
I never heard of Zool. If I did, I don't remember it. I guess I should say I probably have seen the name and definitely the mascot in my younger days, right? Since it was ported to 15,000 different things, I probably definitely saw it somewhere along the way. You got a commercial or something for it. But when I was doing Game Boy Adventure and doing a bunch of this retro stuff, I came across it and I was like, "Oh, I don't know what this is." I avoided it. I think it was you. You're like, "Hey, you should try and play Zool. It's a pretty short game." I think you said it was, or it's I was looking for something short, and I think you threw out Zool, and I was like, all right, we'll check it out. And I have a lot of patience with games I don't understand to start. So like when I started playing, I'm like, oh, this is like what's that 7-Up game that you collect everything and just move on to it? Spot.
Spot. Yeah.
Is it just called Spot?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this game is like Spot, where I just collect stuff and move on to the next stage. So I got through Candyland, and I was like, oh, there's a boss. I'm like, all right, got through the boss. And I was like, oh, now it's the same thing, just in a different world. I'm like, oh, this sucks. And then it just gets to the point where I just increasingly just started disliking the game more and more and more as I played through it. Because it just gets to the point where it got to be a little too cryptic for the type of game that it is. It's like, oh, I need to break this random thing in thin air to drop me pieces of whatever to progress to the next stage. I'm like, this sucks. Or I'm going back and forth because the enemies respawn. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go off the screen, come back, kill the enemy, get what I need to do. It gets to the point where it got a little too cryptic for my liking. And then the tree stage, man. Once we got to the forest stage, I was done with the game. I was like, this game sucks. I never want to play it ever again. And the sad part is I lost the recording to this game, so I do have to play it again. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And I was just like, oh, this game is just not fun. In the notes I put hated all of it. And that's just, it's true. I don't like collectathon games. I don't like games that put me into a timer where I have to go and decrypt the level to go get something to progress through it. I don't like games like that, period. And the fact that he moves at like Mach 3 speed, just, I'm cool with that, but like the game design for the Game Boy was not there for Zool to move like that. So I did not rate this game very well. And this is a game I would never recommend to anyone to play on the Game Boy. Maybe the Amiga version is better, but I haven't played the Amiga version, so.
Well, at least for next time, there's checkpoints, so.
Yeah.
That makes it more manageable for sure.
But yeah, I did not like the game. But
Mm-hmm.
I do know there's a Super Nintendo version of the game as well. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that one's okay. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
Retro achievements. You're the retro achievement guy. Are there any I'm assuming there's retro achievements for this game.
I totally forgot to actually look at that. Let's see. Game Boy. No, there are no retro achievements whatsoever for this game. So, yeah.
Well, there are no Game Boy speedruns for Zool. There is a leaderboard, but it is empty. Yeah, when I went to speedrun.com and typed in Zool, I was like, oh, there's a Game Boy leaderboard. Someone's actually... Oh, nope, it's empty. Okay.
Yeah, well...
There's no Amiga... Wow, there's no Amiga runs? Are there any runs? Okay, there's a Super Nintendo run.
Okay.
They did it for AGDQ 2013. This run is 9 years old. Because no one wants to play this game.
Poor Zool.
There's a Sega Genesis one from 3 years ago. There's a lot for the Sega Master System. Holy smokes! Do you know what the world record is for the Master System?
No.
9 seconds and 840 milliseconds.
Oh, so yeah, that's a broken game for sure then.
It explains why there's so many runs for it.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. I was like, Master System. There's probably going to be like 5 people that ran. Nope. 51. Okay. So, yeah. No Game Boy speedrun that I'm aware of, so that's a thing y'all can do. Get it down to like 20 minutes, so put it into a Tiny 10. Make people hate their lives. We're not doing a break right now. We just got off of one. So yeah, with that, we're going to dive into community events coming up. So we'll start with RGL TV, Retro Gaming Live. Coin Op, December 2nd through December 4th. Definitely check that out if you're into arcade games. The reason I bring it up is because some arcade games get ported to Game Boy, like Avenging Spirit and stuff like that. So definitely fun to check that out. We have the Feed the Kids Marathon November 25th to November 27th. So depending on when this episode gets released, maybe next weekend, will be when the marathon is going on. I'll be running 4 games in this marathon. I'll be doing... I don't even remember what games I'm doing. Squidlet. I know Squidlet is one of them. The face where you don't remember your games that you submitted. I'll be running Titus the Fox on easy, Shaq Fu, Barbie Game Girl, and Squidlet. So 3 Game Boy games and a indie Game Boy game, so to speak. I'm actually really nervous about Squidlet and Titus. Those are the games I actually need to practice. So I don't remember Titus very well. Then after that, we have RGL Secret Santa. I don't remember the dates on that, but we'll have more information on that probably the next episode or the next light episode. I actually enjoy Secret Santa.
I think it's the weekend from like the 16th till the 18th of December.
Oh, okay, right in the middle then.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I enjoy Secret Santa. Last year, Kong had me play some Mega Man game. It's like a Mega Man remix where it had like Mega Man 3 stuff in it and 2, and I forgot what it was called now though, but it was really fun. It's in my drive still.
Yeah, I had Phantom 2040.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo game.
Blade. And what was the other one? I don't remember what the third one was. They were all fun games, at least.
Yeah. I forgot the other game was that they gave me. I completely forgot. But I gave 3 to the Dragon Ball Beat 'em Up on Game Boy Advance. And then I gave him X on Game Boy.
I don't even remember which games I gave at all. Oh, whatever.
And then our friends over at Power Up with Pride is getting ready for their Winter Pride event, December 9th to the 11th. And then Games Done Quick, AGDQ will be January 8th to the 15th. This will be an online exclusive event. And the only Game Boy games playing is Pokemon Red and Super Mario Land 1.
Yay.
Joy.
Freaking Pokemon. Every time.
It's always Pokemon. Hey, there's a Game Boy game. Yeah, is it Pokemon? Well, yeah, it's still, yeah, okay, yeah, no one cares.
Nope.
It's Pokemon.
Nobody cares.
It's Pokemon. No one cares. Any questions in Discord? Probably not. Our Discord's been... Oh, there is still people talking.
Yeah, Casino asked if this is the only Game Boy game with bindable controls. No.
No.
Well, I mean, maybe like they do it in this one, yes. Because you can even put like jump on up and if you press down you shoot. So that's probably unique. But there are definitely a few games where you can change the controls. The first one that comes to mind is Fall of the Foot Clan, which also starts with B as jump and A as attack, which you immediately need to switch. Yeah, maybe in this capacity, yes. But otherwise, no, this is definitely not the only one.
Yeah.
And that's the only question. No. There we go.
Our very scripted outro now. So yeah, if you have any thoughts and suggestions for the podcast, we're always looking to grow, always looking to make this podcast better. Not only for us, but also for... I need to clean my desk. I have hit this cup literally 10 times while recording today. I have a coffee cup on my desk, and I'm very animated with my hands when I talk, even if you can't see me. This is how I am. I've hit this cup 10 times. So I already hear clanking in the background from me. It's because I hit my cup. And I've hit the cup 10 times this recording. At least 10 times. So my desk is a disaster zone right now. Anyways, if you have any thoughts and suggestions for us to make the podcast better, like I said, we're not only looking to make it better for us, but we also want to make it better for you, the listeners, because you're the ones, well, listening to the podcast and hopefully enjoying what we have to say about the games, accessories, console, publishers, whatever tangents we can go on. We're plenty of ways to let us know how we're doing. Discord obviously is one way. Letting us know individually is another way. Certain podcast platforms allow you to rate the podcast or each episode and leave comments and things like that. Like I think SoundCloud has comments as well. So we always want to hear from you. We always want to know what y'all think of the podcast and the episodes and the subject matter and everything else involved. You can find me, eBloodyCandy, on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And YouTube is even easier to find people on now that they're allowing people to have usernames or handles again. Friggin' YouTube. Where can I find you, Mo?
You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, all under /Moelle, which you write Moelleuh. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you can find our wonderful, awesome producer, SprintingLegs, on Twitch and Twitter, Legs on YouTube, and check out her project website, SprintingLegs.com, where you can also find the database for the Game Boy manuals that we are very slowly scanning in. On top of that, we have a Patreon. So if you would like to support us monetarily, we do have a Patreon where I guess you subscribe per month and We have tiers that give you certain access to things, like you have a special role in Discord to let you see bloopers, notes, behind the scenes stuff. I think discount codes on the merch store. You also get premiere access, first-hand access, first look access, premiere access to Haunt Hunters whenever Mo and I get around to actually doing those. We just released... The hell did we just play on Haunt Hunters? Was it the Game Boy Horde?
Fishing Vacation.
Fishing Vacation, yeah. So that's not public, but you get first-hand looks, sneak peeks of that when they're done. So, and we don't have a set schedule for Haunt Hunters by any means. It's kind of whenever we have free time.
So not now.
Which right now is not happening. We also have a PayPal. If you do donate through PayPal, please let us know. We can't tie PayPal to Discord or anything of that nature at all. But we want to thank you for supporting us. So please let us know if you go down the PayPal route. We also have a merch store, merch.thisisgameboy.com, where you can get a few articles of, merch. We have a t-shirt and a coffee cup.
Yeah.
Stickers soon. We'll get them. We'll get them. And some other things. I know Mo is doing designy stuff in his free time and whatnot for another t-shirt, I think it was. So
yeah.
We'll have other stuff. Oh god, that's the next episode. We'll have stuff. We'll have more stuff getting released in the future of the store.
Yeah, let's just say next year to make it easy.
That's why I said. That's why I said future.
Yeah.
Yeah, the future. And if we understand money is a thing, especially during the holiday season. It's always a thing during the holiday season.
Yeah. Listening
to the podcast, marking it 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening to, hanging out in the Discord and chatting with us means so much to us as just hosts and producers and just content creators, because without you all, we don't do this, because if no one's listening, why do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if we don't have an audience, there's no reason to keep pushing. So,
indeed.
But yeah, no, it's been a ride so far. It's been good. Our numbers have been steadily going up. It's actually really shocking for having a very niche video game podcast. Like, I'm not even gonna say video game podcast. It's a very, very niche video game podcast, because most people that do like video game podcasts will either cover like the array of video games, right? Like whether it's from the Fairchild to the PS5, or you have some people that will hit like the popular platforms, right? Like the NES, Super NES, or like Nintendo, Sega, Atari. But like, I think we might be, as of right now, the only active Game Boy podcast.
Yeah, unless there's a new one out there that I don't know about, but
yeah,
probably still the only one that kept going. So
yeah, crazy. So thank you all for listening to Mo and I ramble about 20-plus-year-old video games that we played when we were 7.
Yeah, most of them. Yeah. Some are even new to us.
Yeah. I mean, the library is huge, and you only have X amount of money as a kid, so
yeah.
You have a finite amount of finances as a child. Even as an adult, we have a finite amount of finances.
Yeah. Well, I ain't rich. I can't buy what I want.
We can't even touch Game Boy. You can't even touch any retro games right now. It's insanity just how expensive the retro market is right now. It sucks.
That's why I switched back to comics for a while.
Yeah, it sucks.
So I'll just keep buying those. So.
That was the biggest reason I bought the Mister, honestly. Was just like I could keep buying EverDrives, and I love Crix's EverDrives, don't get me wrong. But it's like at some point I'm gonna hit a boundary of like I want to play these other systems that I don't own. And they don't have an EverDrive for those systems at all. So it's like I'm gonna spend a ton of money on systems and games just to do. I'm like, yeah, I might as well just buy a Mister. So that was literally the only reason I bought a Mister or warranted buying one, was because of that. But yeah, and you can find, so back to that other stuff. You can find all that other stuff, bios, links, maybe even the latest episode. I don't know if that widget's still working or not. SoundCloud's weird sometimes with its embedding, but you can find all that stuff on thisisgameboy.com. And I can't believe we're doing this. The worst of the series. So the next game.
I mean,
Mo. The next game is what?
The next game is Mega Man 2.
Ick.
For Game Boy.
Ick.
Yeah, we're going in order. We did Wily's Revenge, so now we're moving on to the second one.
I forgot we did DWR,
Yeah. And it's just a fun game to talk about for various reasons. So
fun.
Yeah.
It's not not a bad game, but
no, it's definitely not a bad game. But it is a bad game.
Yeah, it's not a bad game, but it's a bad game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
More on that next time, which will probably still be in 2022. I think
we can get it out.
No, maybe not. I don't know. We will see. It's either the first episode of the new year or the last episode of this year. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it kind of falls on how quickly can we get things scheduled out and recorded.
Yeah.
Whatnot. So, but yeah, next episode you hear from both Mo and I together will be Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy. Until next time. Ta-ta.
Later.
This is where EBC sings the song himself. Do 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 do.